going here? Good evening, or it feels like evening. Good afternoon, everybody. And I'm going to call this. I see we have quorum, so I think we'll call the meeting to order. And welcome you to the third meeting of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates. The committee is meeting for the next hour today to consider the future business, and following that meeting, the subcommittee on agenda and procedure will meet for the next an hour after that, and continue planning for the work of the committee. Pursuant to motion adopted by the House on Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020, the committee may continue to sit in a hybrid format. This means that members can participate either in person in the committee room or by video conference via Zoom. Just so you are aware that today's meeting is in public. To ensure an orderly meeting, I'd like to outline a few rules. Interpretation in this video conference will work very much like a regular committee meeting. You have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either floor, English, or French. Before speaking, please wait until I recognize your name. When you are ready to speak, you can click on the microphone icon to activate your mic. When you're not speaking, your mic should be on mute. To raise a point of order during the meeting, committee members should ensure their microphone is unmuted and say point of order to get the chairman's attention. In order to ensure social distancing in the committee room, if you need to speak privately with the clerk during the meeting, please email him at the committee mailbox. And also, if you wish to consult with the analysts, they are with us today. And the same thing, I'd ask you to, if you need to discuss with the analysts, to communicate with them via that means as well. On Friday, the clerk sent out the text of 3 motions that were debated during the meeting of OGGO on Thursday, October 8, 2020. Debate on all 3 of these motions was adjourned. Members were also asked to submit any suggestions they had for discussion during this meeting. We received suggestions from Ms. Vignola, which were transmitted to the members of the committee on Friday. I will now open the floor for members of the committee to discuss which subjects they wish to discuss.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Paul Hughes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We have several motions on the table, but I would like to propose today, I think that they should lead to a very quick meeting. The motion is as follows: that according to Article that we undertake a study, and that the committee make a report of the conclusions in the House November 2020. Thank you.
Mr.
Point of
Green,
order?
Yes, Mr. Green, point of order.
Am I not to understand that when we adjourn, we pick up the adjournment based on the motion that we were adjourned on? Or do we just start completely open? Like, I believe that I still have a motion on the floor. I didn't know that adjournment was reset.
Thank you. I've got to get used to where these mics are. Apologize. And in the last meeting, we actually just continued on, but I believe actually in the last one we sort of gone on. So the opportunity here is when I opened the floor, I saw Mr. Paul Hughes first. However, there's an opportunity, Mr. Green, if you wish to put a motion to resume debate, or we can finish the debate quickly on Mr. Paul Hughes and go straight to you. or to resuming that debate.
But just to be clear, so in the last meeting,
Yes.
you're suggesting that we didn't adjourn while my motion was duly put on the floor?
Yes. Yeah, so as we've come back to this committee, it's really up to what the committee would wish to go.
Okay, thank you for that point of information through you to the clerk.
Thank you. Mr. McKenna.
So, if we happen to launch into Mr. Green's a debate on Mr. Green's motion, I thought there was a modification to his motion which was being debated. So, in my opinion, I think right now we should begin the session by discussing the amendments to Mr. Green's motion that I had proposed to the committee.
And I would agree with Mr. McKenna that we would resume the debate on the amendment as proposed, if assuming that it's the amendment based on the motion originally presented by Mr. Green. And the amendment you were making the motion on was actually one that was not being presented by Mr. Green.
That's not the case, Mr. Chairman. I had amended the motion. I had amended Mr. Green's motion in two ways. And by removing part of the motion.
Apologize, I'm deaf in one ear and they tell me I can't hear out at the other one. So I could not hear the interpreter because it was so
I in
quiet.
fact proposed a two-pronged amendment to Mr. Green's motion, and that we were just as we adjourned the last meeting, that we were debating. If it is true that we are going to open the meeting by debating Mr. Green's motion, then I think it would be proper that we open the meeting by debating the amendments that I put to his motion that were already on the floor.
Tout simplement, Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Chairman, based on the procedure for my motion was tabled. We can vote on it, and that after that we can move on to the next, to Mr. Green's motion or to others.
Adjourned with a motion on the floor, a motion that had been amended, that we were debating the amendments of that motion. If you accept Mr. Green's proposition that his motion was properly on the floor and we adjourned during its debate, then we should open this meeting by discussing Mr. Green's motion, but that motion had been properly, there were proper amendments on the floor being debated as we adjourned that meeting. So we should open the meeting then, in that case, by debating the amendments that had been put to Mr. Green's motion.
I'm going to get the clerk to speak to the amendment if we could.
If I may, just on the subject of the amendment that was raised, Mr. McKinnon, just to clarify, my understanding is that Mr. McKinnon wanted to remove the text, that the amendment was to remove the text awarding by the federal government of a $900 million sole source contract to We Charity, as well as prior contracts to this organization, and furthermore to replace the date October 31st, 2020 with December 31st, 2020. Mr. McKinnon, do I have that correct? That's what you...
On the dates, wherever it appears.
Yes, because it appears twice.
Yes.
So procedurally, when a committee adjourns debate on a motion, the motion remains before the committee, and the committee can retake up the debate at any time. However, it rests with the committee to determine when it wants to do that. In this case here, the chair recognized Mr. Paul Huss, who moved his motion. there's nothing that prevents another member from moving that we resume consideration of Mr. Green's motion. That being said, we wouldn't actually be resuming consideration of Mr. Green's motion. We would be resuming debate on the totality of it, which is to say the motion and the amendment that Mr. McKinnon has moved. So at this point, it depends on how the committee wishes to proceed. If the committee wishes to continue with Mr. Green's motion, it only needs somebody to move that, and then the committee will take a majority decision on that. Alternatively, Mr. Paul Hoos was recognized and moved a motion, which is on the floor.
Sorry, Mr. Green. Yes, Mr. Green, I recognize you.
Mr. Chair, for the good and welfare of this committee, we've been now stymied for the better part of 6 months. I'm happy to relinquish my motion on the floor to my friend, Mr. Paul Hoos, to hopefully get this committee rolling in the spirit of actually getting stuff done here. So I'm happy to take up my motion after Mr. Paul Hoos, who has duly put his motion on the floor, at which time.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Hearing that and seeing nothing else, we will carry on with Mr. Paul Hoos. Any discussion to the motion? Mr. Drouin.
So, I'm just trying to, j'essaie de comprendre la motion.
I'm trying to understand the motion. Asking for the production of documents related to that business within the health committee that was discussed in chamber. And from what I understand at the ethics committee, there's a similar study underway. And we were assured by the official opposition that they were in good faith, that they didn't want to request from healthcare officials at Health Canada who are in the midst of a pandemic to have them appear at this committee. So if this is adopted, they'll come to this committee. After that, they'll go to the ethics committee. And we know that they'll definitely go to the health committee. And they're already going to the health committee. I'm just trying to understand what the purpose is here. What's the rationale of this motion?
Want to answer that?
Oui, Monsieur le Président.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This is an issue that is specifically related to contracting by the department, and it's a very clear public issue with... What's funny, Mr. McKinnon? Do you find that funny? We're in person. We can see each other. We can see what the challenges are with regards to management. So for us, this event requires immediate verification. It's a possibility of $137 million paid extra for respirators that should have cost $100 million max instead of $237 million. And the connection between a former MP, Frank Bayless, and the government that's working on this. Everybody knows the story. This is public. And this committee's work is to shed light on that, to know what happened. So I do believe that it doesn't jeopardize the life of Canadians, as the Liberals are trying to say since this morning. This is a $237 million contract, a quarter million, for those who know how to count. And we are entitled to know what's going on with this contract and how come Frank Bayless got this contract.
Yeah, just my quick point here in response to Member Drouin's point. I don't think it's up to our committee to presume what the other committees may or may not be studying in the future. So I think it's completely fair game and agree with my colleague, Mr. Paul Hoos, that this is a fair motion for this committee.
Thank you. I have Mr. McCauley and then Mr. McKinnon.
Fine, Mr. Chair.
Mr. McKinnon.
Écoutez, là, on est sur...
We're discussing Mr. Paulus' motion. Just to be clear. First of all, the Ethics Committee and a standing Ethics Committee had accepted to fundamentally study the motion. I think that Canadians listening, watching, reasonable people who are paying attention to what was just voted on, at the House of Commons a motion with 28 separate sections, areas of study, documents that will never be, we can never read all of that in 5 lifetimes. And the opposition is going fishing for documents. And we have committees that are multiplying that want to study each and every one piece of procurement. And we are in the midst of a pandemic, a second wave, where public servants throughout government have the responsibility, yes, to procure essential equipment and to deliver programs, emergency programs, different emergency benefits that are essential for the population, that are essential for our SMEs, our businesses, who are working to make sure that the IT system is working, is fully working, who are working very hard at all of those levels while maintaining their relations between partners, territories, provinces, laborers, community organizations, and so on and so forth. And here we are debating to see if we want to study or to require for witnesses and documents on one single piece of procurement, one single, which leads me to believe that the opposition, who clearly is not consulting before tabling all of these motions, they want us to study shipbuilding, which is well worth looking at. It's one of the most important procurement projects of Canada in the history of Canada that has a national scope. We accepted to study IT systems, another very broad issue. We also accepted to study other parts of procurement. I think my colleagues and I accepted and demonstrated transparency, total transparency, opening, total opening in terms of accepting studies that would be productive, that would allow Canadians to realize that at least the Operations Committee of the government can work together, putting up its sleeves and accepting to work proactively. And in the long term, it would be beneficial for Canadians. I think that's what I did. I contributed. Mr. Drouin was there. Mr. Macaulay was there in the previous parliament. And when we conducted studies that contributed to the philosophy and direction of the government for very important matters regarding procurement, IT systems, government operations, and also studying various topics that were controversial, pay systems. We worked together. We managed to work together, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Chairman, we would like to welcome you, and I'm sorry for you that you're coming in all of this challenging environment. We are getting motions to examine each and every one piece of procurement, possibilities, different challenges. We all know a public accounts will be made public. The government will be totally transparent and will be judged on the totality of its actions and initiatives regarding the pandemic. But I would like to ask my colleagues and citizens watching today, let's be productive. This is a House committee that's mandated to look at different matters. And I think we have a lot of questions to study thoroughly as suits you. And we will fully contribute. We are engaged to fully contributing to the study of important questions, including the pandemic and procurement during the pandemic, and also domestic capacity to produce essential equipment in response to this pandemic. But here we are debating at this moment on a single procurement project stemming from our initiative, which is to build domestic capacity.
À la pandémie. Une initiative.
This is an initiative in one sector, ventilators. This is something that was done by several companies who didn't make ventilators before. So they changed their production line in order to be able to build ventilators. Some of them were auto part makers, and they just left that aside. The CEO of manufacturers said that this wasn't a partisan issue. It was a matter of national pride to be able to respond to the government's call, to be able to build those ventilators, because the government asked for it, and we thank them. The Department of Innovation, Science and Economic Development for the Government of Canada led that initiative to go and increase domestic capacity. They worked really hard, day and night, with PSPC. And they answered the government's call to increase domestic capacity. That's what Canadians wanted. People called us from everywhere in Canada. Citizens, governments, partners, unions, the medical sector. These people told us that we needed to make Canada more capable in terms of medical equipment production, and that's what we did very quickly. So we want to study that initiative, just as we want to study everything that is related to departments that we study here in this committee. But once again, I ask my colleagues, let's be constructive. Let's work together. Let's not act in bad faith. Let's take on studies, important studies that were requested by all members of committees. Let's establish a reasonable calendar. Let's call upon witnesses in an orderly manner to make sure that people who are protecting Canadians can do their work properly. And Let's conduct study that will be constructive. I think that is why we are here. We were sent here by voters. And if we want to move forward, we put $6 billion on the website this summer. So if we are to conduct a study for each and every supply, we are going to be here for 5 legislatures. So I call upon my colleagues and I'm asking them to work together collaboratively. Mr. Chair, I think that this is quite implicit in what you are saying. We should be deciding together the order of the committee's business, and we should just resume business because our work was suspended. Let's just resume working. Let's work for our voters. Let's reflect in an orderly and mature way for the government. The OGGO committee is chaired by the opposition, and so that gives you quite an important responsibility, Mr. Chair. The choices we will be making here, we are in a minority position here, so that gives you a responsibility. You have the responsibility to present a working plan. All parties from the opposition need to examine that, and we must decide together what we want to do. So this is my offer. I want to work with you. There is a lot of things to do, and we want to act in all transparency. I hope, Mr. Chair, that we will be able to decide together on a working plan that will be beneficial for Canadian citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKinnon, and I agree with you on the fact that that working plan is what we need, and that working plan is what this whole purpose is about, is creating that working plan, getting those motions such that they can get to subcommittee, which should be following this meeting, such that subcommittee can determine the studies that we need to do. And so the faster we can get through this, the better it would be. So I ask everybody to try and adhere to that. I notice that everybody is wishing to speak. So right now we will go, Ms. Paul, I do have you. I'm going to let you respond later, as opposed to we'll hear from everybody else before we get you a chance to respond to people. Questions, because some of the questions that are coming from others are directed at you. So I'll hold you for a little bit, okay? So I have Mr. Kuzmirchuk, then Mr. Weiler, and then I have Mr. Paul Hoos after that. And then that's followed by Mr. Drouin, Mr. McCauley, Madam Vignola, and Mr. Johari. Mr. Kuzmirchuk.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I guess I just wanted to ask if my honorable colleague, Mr. Hoos, could just reread the motion, because I'm not entirely clear. I understand the exact motion here. So I just want to be clear before I add my comments to the discussion. And so if possible, I ask my colleague just to be able to reread the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. So, and I'll do it in English, that pursuant to Standing Order 1082, the committee undertake a study on the federal contract of 10,000 pandemic ventilators awarded to FTI and fabricated by Baylis Medical, and that the committee report its findings in the House in November 2020. Did you want to add to that? Or
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, may I speak to that? I'm not sure
Certainly.
if I used up my turn. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for that, and I really do appreciate the question from my colleague. Although I'm struggling to understand here. Again, knowing that other committees are taking up this work, and I'm struggling to sort of, again, just going back to my original point in previous meetings, I'm struggling to understand the value of this particular committee taking up this study at this particular point in time. And when we look at where we are today, and where we were many months ago, when it comes to medical procurement, we've taken a whole of government approach, focused on responding to the COVID-19 outbreak. We've worked with partners across all levels of government. We've worked with industry to basically secure PPE and secure life-saving medical supplies. And I remember my wife is a nurse practitioner, and I remember early on having a conversation with her, seeing what was happening in countries like Italy, the challenges that they had with PPE and medical equipment. I recall the conversations we had, not just about what was happening in Italy, but what was happening right across the river in Detroit and Southeast Michigan, and seeing hospitals being inundated and being overwhelmed, and seeing doctors and nurses struggling to get PPE, struggling to get medical equipment as the first wave sort of washed over Detroit and Southeast Michigan. I mean, we saw it literally. We saw it on the news every single day. And Mr. Chair, I have to tell you that in Windsor we have 1,500 nurses Canadian nurses who live in Windsor and who travel across the border each and every day to work in American hospitals. And we didn't have to watch the news. Many of us know such Canadian nurses, cross-border nurses, and so we were getting information firsthand in terms of getting information firsthand from what they were experiencing in Detroit with the lack of PPE and medical equipment and the challenges they were facing. Some of them had to, some of them were asked to carry their masks in a paper bag home with them and bring them to work the next day. So those are some of the things that we were thinking about back then when the first wave hit. And with this tremendous effort on the part of the government, and on the part of local industry, Canadian industry, we sort of mobilized. We had the largest mobilization, peacetime mobilization of industry to produce PPE and medical equipment. And we've made this incredible leap from where we were to where we are now. It's absolutely incredible. And we have this momentum that we've established over the last number of months. And I think it's important that we see that momentum carry through. And we've heard, over the last, 6 months and the summer, and we're in a much better position now than we were back in March, and that's thanks to the tremendous work of the government and tremendous work of our officials, tremendous work of industry and partners, provincial partners as well too, and others that really work together to acquire the necessary PPE. We've also been able to bring online production, in terms of long-term planning, the 3M facility in Brockville, Medicom, to make N95 masks and face shields, gowns, non-medical mask makers, And so again, we've mobilized all our forces and all our folks in order to address PPEs and medical equipment, not just in the short term, but also in the long term as well. And at this point in time, we've well over 70% of our orders for face shields have been received, and I might add that the majority of those are Canadian manufacturers. We've received 85% of our orders for hand sanitizer, including companies like Fluid Energy in Calgary. And so again, we're heading in the right direction. We're gaining momentum here. And that's important because we are preparing for a second wave. We are preparing for a second wave. And the last thing that we need is to take our officials and all the partnerships that we've built, to take their attention away from developing and building up, continuing to build up our stockpiles, continuing to build up our PPE, or continuing to build up our medical devices. We can't afford for folks to take their eyes off the ball, especially knowing that there is a second wave that is upon us. And again, you look at the fact that as the numbers are rising around the country, we were starting to get nervous. And I can tell you that even having those conversations again with my wife, who's a nurse practitioner, and my number one priority is to make sure that we have the PPE and the medical devices necessary to not only protect Canadians and protect their health, but also protect the health and safety of Canadians who are frontline healthcare workers. And so my concern is that something that my colleague had brought forward, is we're asking officials to basically attend meeting after meeting, to take time away from their important critical work, just as we're entering the peak of the second wave. And we're asking them to take time away from their important work to come here and testify, to take time away from their work and produce documentation, duplicate meetings rather than having one meeting sort of focused on those discussions. And it represents for me a real clear and present.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, I'm just trying to seek clarity. We will be meeting in subcommittee, and I was hoped that you could provide the committee with an update on how we are to proceed, because my understanding is we've already adopted 4 motions on this committee, and which has been agreed by all parties. And now I would hope that we would have subcommittee so we can get working on those 4 motions that were already adopted at committee. So I'm just trying to get a sense of how we are going to proceed, or if we're going to keep scheduling committee business meetings without any foreseeable, how we're without proceeding with those 4 motions that are already been adopted at this committee. Just seeking clarification on that.
Thank you, Mr. Drouin, and I appreciate that. Yes, we are at 5:30, however, and we would like to be able to get to subcommittee, and I would ask that people, when they do their presentations, that they are recognizing that time frame such that we can get to subcommittee to get some motions moved forward. But it is up to the discretion of the committee as to how you want to proceed. And at this point in time, I ask everyone to understand that and respond to that accordingly. Point of order? Or?
Yes, I'm just going to be blunt here. It's the intention of the governing party just to filibuster this out. We've got a meeting at 5:30 for the subcommittee. I'm happy to sit here for hours and hours, but if that's your intent, let's just say so and move on to the subcommittee then. I mean, it's absolutely a waste of our time to continue this.
can I have order again, please? Order. 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 So, yes, at this point in time, we are in discussion. We have some discussions. If it's the opinion of the committee to move on and adjourn such that we move to subcommittee, if the intent is to do that, then that has to be done from the floor. It cannot be done from a point of order.
Point d'ordre, Monsieur le Président.
Point of order, Mr. Paul Hughes.
Merci. Premièrement, mon collègue.
First of all, my colleague cut off one of my colleagues, but I just wanted to point out that right now we've just wasted 30 minutes of committee time. We're trying to be efficient. The parliamentary secretary says we are trying to be efficient, but I think we are deliberately wasting everybody's time. I know the Liberals don't want to listen to this motion relating to Frank Bailey's agreement. That's an issue when we're talking about managing public funds, 137,200,000. That's a lot of money. And even if another committee will do a study on all the expenses, knowing that we will never get to the end of things, I think Canadians are expecting us to shed some light on this issue. That's quite clear, and we have direct evidence that the Liberals don't really want to assist members of the opposition to do their work. They're just filibustering and wasting our time on critical issues. We have the We Charity issues. You had two brothers that had 43 million to manage $1 billion. Now we have $237,000 contract. We don't want to hear about that. On the other side, I understand, but it's not my job to assist you in that.
Mr. Green, do you have a point of order? Do you have a point of order, Mr. Green?
Well, I can pretend I do, like everybody else, but I do have something for the good and welfare. Given that I've been pretty strict on what is and what is not a point of order, I will not claim this is a point of order. I just want to be on the speaker's list because I find it a little bit rich that the side who's filibustering is now trying to call for us to move on. So at the appropriate time, I'd like to speak to their use of obstruction of democracy as a relates to Parliament.
Mr. McKinnon?
Juste pour donner suite à...
I would just like to follow up on what my colleague, Mr. Paul Hughes, said. I believe it's important for us to make it known that we would like to get into broad discussion on how the committee's work is progressing. And if we want to receive and debate motions endlessly, have new studies, you should know that we will never be able to really look at this. We have a list as long as your arm. So there are all these proposals, motions, that some have been passed, some will be debated in the future. And that's all part of the committee's work. I think what the chair hopes for, what the government party hopes for, what I believe you, the opposition, hope for, is that we should get into a reasonable discussion on what would constitute a reasonable workload for the committee. But if every time we open the session with a new proposal for a study that we would have to debate and adopt and schedule. If we are to do that every meeting, obviously we will never be able to get where we can really get into the work we were sent here to do. Thank you, Mr. McKinnon.
Point of orders are not for debate. And that's where we're going with this. It's become that way. And so the reality is I'm going to ask the committee where you would like to go if we are to continue with this, or we're going to prolong it, or would you like to adjourn it and move to subcommittee? And I'll ask for direction from the committee for that.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Police, I think the government party has taken up enough time of the committee. Maybe we should just vote on this issue and proceed as the committee wishes.
So Mr. Kazmierczuk, though, has the floor, and the motion can't be put forward until someone has the floor. Mr. Paul Hoos is, we still have bit, so if Mr. Kazmierczuk wants to put forward that, then he can do so, but he has the floor, and we have to proceed along those lines.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
You can't go to the question until everyone has finished speaking on the question, so it would have to be to adjourn to go to subcommittee.
And what would that do to Mr. Kuzmierczuk's place in the debate that we, on the motion that we have before us?
So the debate would be over should that happen.
Debate on the motion? On
On-
Mr. Paulus's
On
motion?
Mr. Paul Hoos's motion. Okay. It's a question of whether you're, there is two, because you could adjourn the debate or you could adjourn the meeting. Two things.
But if I'm understanding you correctly, Mr. Chair, your wish, which I don't find unreasonable, is that the committee adjourn itself to a subcommittee where the schedule of work might be considered.
If that's the wish, I'm listing from you, the committee. So I'm not making decisions. You need to make that decision as to what you would like to do as a committee.
Well, I would be prepared to make such a motion without prejudice to my colleague, Mr. Kuzmierczuk's spot in the debate on the motion that's before us.
You can't do that, unfortunately. No. You don't have the floor.
Point
So,
of order, Mr. Chair.
actually, sorry, Mr. Green, first, Ms. Vignola, I saw her hand first, and then we'll go to Mr. Green. Ms. Vignola, you had a point of order?
Can you hear me? Well, this is moving so fast, but if I understand you well, not to allow Mr. Klaus Makshik to start talking about the situation of nurses that have to cross the border all the time, and not voting on bailies, preventing discussion on Mr. Green's motion, and preventing any other member from filing a motion, even if it's something from a previous session that was already adopted. Do I understand you to be saying all that?
On the floor from Mr. Paul Hoos. That is what is being debated right now. The options are to adjourn that motion or the debate on that motion, in which case you could go to Mr. Green's motion to follow forward on that, or you could adjourn to end the meeting today, and we would then go to subcommittee. To do it, at least subcommittee could discuss the motions that have been passed.
OK. Donc, si on va en sous-commission.
So if we go to the subcommittee, then no one can intervene, no one can file any motions, even if it's something that might require an entire meeting to settle. Do we suspend all that and we go to a subcommittee? Everybody keeps quiet and we go to the subcommittee. Is that what I should understand from what you're saying? Inaudible.
Discuss motions that are there and come up with a motion to bring back to the committee as they see fit. Okay, Mr. Green.
I need to share a few things. Mr. Chair, I'm at a distinct disadvantage here in this hybrid system. and trying to ascertain what the speaking order is, to get on the speaking order. We're having people call in on points of order, jump in to debate. Your interpretation when I go to the English channel is muted. I cannot hear it. And I'm becoming increasingly agitated. And so I wish to call the point of order. I'm feeling like I'm being obstructed. I want to make sure that I'm on a speaking list. I haven't spoken on any of this stuff since my motion. And I want to be on the record today, from my perspective, to exactly what is happening here by the government to this point.
At this point in time, Mr. Green, you are the last person on that I have on the list of speakers. So you are on the list.
Okay. So
Okay.
just before we get adjourned, like, I just want to make sure that, without these shenanigans that are coming out of the government side, that somehow I'm going to get squeezed out of being able to contribute to this community. Just for the record, they're probably going to lose this vote anyway. So let's have on.
Okay. Thank you. Seeing no other hands, Mr. Kuzmirchuk, you still have the floor.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate all the comments that are here. For the record, I'm ready to for us to discuss the other motions that we had already deliberated upon in previous committee meetings. But here we have a motion that was dropped from the sky on us. I feel that it is imperative on all of us. I mean, we've only been here for an hour, to be fair. A motion that's dropped on us, we've been here for an hour. And I think it's imperative on us to be able to put on the table at least what our concerns are about this particular motion. And these concerns that we're trying to raise here may be discounted, may be minimized by other folks on this committee, but these are legitimate concerns that we have with a motion that we're first hearing for the first time today. There are numerous motions that were brought forward and debated in previous meetings that I'm happy to discuss, and move forward on. The motions that my colleague Mr. Green has put forward are things that we debated in the last meeting, and I think we should advance and do our best to proceed on those motions, as opposed to, again, be distracted by new motions that just happen to fall from the sky and whatnot. I mean, this is an opportunity for us to be able to really put all of our concerns on the table. And these aren't illegitimate concerns. These are concerns that are shared by many Canadians. And I look at, for example, an article that was published in Maclean's magazine. That basically calls the motion that was just before us in the House a farce. And it says, to quote, it says it calls for the Health Committee to study every imaginable aspect of the COVID response, including but not limited to rapid testing, vaccine development, distribution, federal public health guidelines, the data being used to inform them, long-term care, the GPHIN early warning system, protocols for travelers, emergency stockpiles, COVID alert smartphone app, contact tracing, more and more. And it goes on to state it's a breathtaking list, but it's not even exhausted. The including but not limited to wording means that anything else that pops into any member's mind or inbox could be added at any time. And then it goes on to say, how shall this committee undertake its work? By calling on 6 government offices to provide all memoranda, all emails, all documents, all notes, all records on plans, preparations, approvals, purchasing of COVID-19 testing products, including tests, reagents, swabs, lab equipment, other material. And it goes on, that's just one of 7 wide-scale fishing expeditions listed in the motion, all, and here's the important point that I'm trying to make here, all requiring massive deployment of government resources, all with potentially zero utility even to the motion's stated purpose. Because if this committee sat until doomsday, it would not be able to examine or discuss the 1,000th part of
Point
the
of order,
haystack this
Mr.
motion
Chair.
would order up.
Mr. Lloyd, yes.
Mr. Chair, I believe the member, I hope the member realizes he's not on the Health Committee, that he's on the OGGO Committee, because he seems to be talking exclusively about a matter that the motion that was passed in the House recently related to the Health Committee, and he's on the Government Estimates Committee. So I would just ask, like, what's the relevance of his comments today?
I'd ask all the members that they pertain their points to the discussion that we have and keep them. I will allow some latitude, but please keep them reflective of the discussion.
So thank you, Chair. And the point that I'm trying to make is picking up on a point that my colleague had made earlier in this meeting, which is that there are other committees that are studying these very issues and calling on these folks to calling on these same government officials, these same companies, these same people, same witnesses to testify across various committees. And the point that I'm trying to make here is that we are in the middle of the greatest pandemic and health challenge that we've ever faced as a country. And we have officials that are working day and night, 7 days a week, 24/7 to address this issue. And it seems to me that the only thing that my colleagues across the aisle are focused on is, rather than helping these folks in their work and preparing us for the second wave of the pandemic, all they care about is production of papers, establishing committee after committee, duplicating witnesses, duplicating.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Paul.
Mr. Chair.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Donc,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that we can save a little bit of breath to my colleague who is virtually here. We can adjourn the debate on my motion because I think they clearly demonstrated their intent. They don't want to collaborate, their intent to cover up Frank Bayless's story. It's very clear. If they had a little bit of good faith, we would have debated proceeding and be efficient for the good of Canadians. Mr. Chair, I'm willing to adjourn the debate on my motion. I have enough evidence here with them that we have more serious problems to solve.
Mr. Paul Hoos, for your statement. However, you can't move that motion on a point of order, although it would be up to the committee if they want to reflect on what you stated and respond to that accordingly. Ms. Vignola?
Écoutez,
My colleague is proposing to adjourn the debate. I understand it's not up to him to ask for that, so I will take on the responsibility. Could we adjourn the debate on Mr. Paulus's motion and to move on and proceed to other topics that might not be as lengthy in their debate?
Well, I'm going to ask if there's consensus amongst the committee members to adjourn the debate on this motion.
Point of order. This is Matthew Green.
Mr. Green?
So, I still, what is the speaking list? I still would like to know whether or not, like, how close was I to be able to actually have an intervention in this committee? I have a parliamentary privilege to participate in this committee, and I'm feeling like that's getting pushed out here because of the shenanigans that are happening, Mr. Chair. So after Mr. Kazmierczak, how many speakers before I would have reached my opportunity to have an intervention on this?
And I had about 6 other speakers before you.
Okay, you can go ahead and adjourn.
I was... Do we need a... Can I see a show of hands to adjourn? And carried.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Green.
Now that that's been adjourned, I'd like to go ahead and revisit the motion that I had presented, that we gave pause to allow for Mr.
Right.
Paul Hoos, the one that I had duly put, and I'd like to ask that I could speak to that motion or the amended portion of that motion as the first person on the speakers list, given that we're now in a bit of a free-for-all.
Right. So we now have adjourned the motion on Mr. Paul Hughes. The next step was to come to you, Mr. Green, on your motion and open discussion that we were ended on as of last meeting. And it would have to be.
You vote on whether or not to return. Reopen.
He's sorry. Can you just confirm to me? You're removing a motion to reconsider your motion. Is that correct?
No, I'm not removing any motion. My motion was put. I allowed Mr. Paul Hoos to take the floor to put his motion as he did in this free-for-all. And in that chaos, we're now at a place where that's been adjourned. And the motion that I have is still in adjournment from the last committee, as I'm to understand.
So the committee needs to decide whether they want to resume discussion of your motion.
So as though I still have the floor, I would like to put that to this committee, that we resume debate on that motion, because I do believe, Mr. Chair, that I do believe that we can get somewhere substantive if we were to remove the "we" out of that and to change some of the dates. But damn it, like, let's get to work here.
Yeah, but if there's any disagreement.
So I will put forward the motion that we reconsider Mr. Green's motion that's on the floor.
Mr. Chair? Just,
Yes.
I thought we amended or we adjourned debate so we could move to subcommittee. That's the understanding I got.
No, that
did not happen.
That was the motion not to go to subcommittee. Yeah. So do I see consensus to resume debate? No? Then there would be a...
Mr. Chair, a quick question.
You'd have to put the question of the recorded
Quarter division on that vote.
Is this a debatable motion?
No, we're now, the vote is there to resume debate, to resume debate and recalling a recorded motion or vote.
But just as a point of order, Mr. Chair.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Is that a debatable motion?
No.
Okay.
Yes. I'll have the clerk speak to that.
If I may, the motion to resume consideration, or essentially to move to another order of business, is considered a dilatory motion, and therefore it is non-amendable and non-debatable. When it's proposed, the question has to be put to allow the committee to decide immediately which issue it wishes to proceed to discuss.
Okay.
So, Mr. Clerk?
On the motion to resume consideration of the motion in the name of Mr. Green and the amendment in the name of Mr. McKinnon, I will now call the roll. Monsieur Drouin?
En faveur.
Yay.
In favor.
Mr. Kosmierczak? Mr. McKinnon?
Wait.
Mr. Weiler?
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd?
In favor.
Mr. McCauley?
Favor. Yeah.
Monsieur Paul Hus?
Wait.
In favor.
Wait.
In favor.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that is 10 in favor and 0 against.
Mr. Chair?
To resume consideration on Mr. Green's motion and the amendment of Mr. McKinnon.
Mr. Chair?
I heard Mr. Green's first before, and then Mr. McKinnon. And
I do appreciate the opportunity
speaker's
to
list.
revisit this. And certainly you can probably pick up on some of the frustration that I've had in my voice.
Sorry, just for a sec, Mr. McGreen, are you on a point of order or are you resuming debate?
I believe I picked up the floor to be able to speak to this motion.
Certainly. And just for a sec, we have a point of order, so just for Mr. McKinnon has a point of order first.
I believe that I just want a point of clarification. I believe that as when we left this motion the last time, there were appropriate, as I indicated earlier, appropriately put amendments on the floor, and that we were in the process of taking up the debate on those amendments. That is correct?
That is correct.
Correct. So
And I had the floor at that time.
No, it restarted during this committee. You can't have it both ways.
I believe Mr. Green would have the floor.
Matt for chair.
And I would agree. I've recognized Mr. Green on that debate on the amendment. We're debating the amendment.
So
and
we're
I recognize
debating the
Mr. Green.
amendments.
So Mr. Green will be able to speak to that first.
The amendments as read out by the clerk just earlier.
Correct.
Okay. Over to you, Mr. Green.
Why,
Before that,
thank you.
I just said.
Thank you for that gracious recognition.
Mr. Green, just a second. No, okay, sorry. I thought I saw another point of order. Go ahead, Mr. Green.
Trying to find that happy place, Mr. Chair, because what I've experienced here since the resumption of Parliament has been straight out of the Harper government playbook. You'll recall back in 2007, there being an actual book, a 200-page handbook on proof of the toxic atmosphere that paralyzed Parliament. And you'll recall that at that point in time, there were actually reported instructions on how to filibuster and otherwise disrupt committee proceedings. And if all else fails, shut down the committee entirely. And that's been my feeling, both as it relates to my particular motion, which would have been a routine motion in any other committee, to simply resume the work that we were supposed to do, all the points of the work that we were supposed to do. And all of this talk, Mr. Chair, about having this, trying to adjourn this debate to then go back to schedule what? To schedule what? So I'm unclear, Mr. Chair, through you to members of this committee. When you look back at all the playbooks, the tactics that the Harper government used, it was the only thing that the New Democrats and Liberals agreed on at that time was that the dysfunction was part of a long-term strategy to persuade voters that minority parliaments don't work and that they need to elect a majority. And I'm starting to feel like that's the case now. I'm starting to feel like much the disruption, these frivolous points of order, and the shenanigans that are coming are really set to frustrate the processes of committee work. Mr. Chair, my motion was very clear. And in fact, I thought pretty graceful in, entertaining some potential to perhaps revisit in some of my conversations with my Liberal friends what the scope of work was, whether it was before COVID, which I was fine with, or whether it was up to the date in question. But if one thing has been made clear by my friend Mr. Paulhouse's motion is that there's absolutely no interest on behalf of the government to revisit the work that we've done prior to this committee in substantive ways that would perhaps present some kind of accountability. We have significant issues on procurement. We've heard today, Mr. Chair, people talk about how much PPEs have been produced, and nobody's talking about the national emergency stockpile and all the PPEs that were thrown out. The blunder in procurement of the first 4 months of this pandemic, the 11 million items of PPEs that were purchased, 9 million of them were garbage. We couldn't even use them. We still to this day don't know what the national standards are in the National Emergency Strategic Stockpile. We still have no clear picture about where we're spending money, who we're spending money with and investing in as it relates to procurement. And yet we have these scenarios, these self-owned. The only reason why we're caught in the quagmire is because it feels like this government couldn't help themselves from helping themselves. Frank Bayless is a significant issue. $200+ million is not immaterial when it comes to contracts. Morneau losing his job as a finance minister is not immaterial as it comes to ethics and overview. So, if the question's being put by government, why are we dealing with this stuff? The question is simply put back, like, why did you have to go down these paths of very gray area politics that at the first blush of the public wouldn't pass the sniff test? Mr. Chair, the only saving grace I have from today's meeting is the fact that we're not in camera. Because as my old football coach used to say, the eye in the sky doesn't lie. All the chaos that was the first hour of this meeting, trying to get to a point where we can get some business done, people know who was speaking. People know who took up the vast majority of that time. And people will also recognize, Mr. Chair, who tried to move immediately into another adjournment. So I'm not sure what the prerogative is of the government. As a New Democrat, I'm going to share with you, we fought to continue to allow this government to work despite the best or worst efforts, depending on who you're talking to, of Liberals and Conservatives to trigger an election. But I'm going to say this, my gut feeling
Point of order,
right
Mr.
now,
Chair.
Mr. Chair, my gut feeling right now
Just point
is
of order.
that
Yes,
Mr. Drouin?
I understand the member's passion, but we are debating the sub-amendments. So is he in favor
Correct.
of the date? And is he in favor of the proposed amendments that was proposed by Mr. McKinnon? That's the sub-amendments that we're actually debating, not the
Right.
entire motion.
Yeah, and the reason why we're in this scenario with the sub amendment is because you prorogued government and then came back and filibustered committee, and that's why we have to extend the date. Because if this government ran as it should have in the middle of a pandemic, absent of corruption, then we would have been at a place where these documents would have been provided to me back in August. But no, a week before I'm supposed to receive these documents, government's prorogued, everything's put on pause. And so we're back in this place now. Look, I am okay and open to retracting the dates to have the demand on the documents placed to just before we were coming back. That would suffice for me. But my concern is, and why I'm talking about the future prospect of a snap election called by this incompetent government, is because my gut tells me they're asking for December because they know we're going to be back at the polls before then. That's what my gut's telling me right now. I'm going to call it early that I think this government is just begging for a snap election. And so it'd be very convenient for the production of papers to have a due date that goes beyond their election call, because they know after prorogation, when they go and make that walk of shame to the Governor General and call a snap election on Canadians, that all the studies disappear. So I am unwilling, Mr. Chair, and I don't want to hear anything about filibuster. I'm going to have my moment right now. I am unwilling, Mr. Chair, to move from any amendment that would result in the imminent delay of production of documents that should have come back in August. So if they are in good faith, then they will see fit that we come up with a scenario that allows an immediate production of the documents as requested by myself back in like June or May or whenever it was, whatever godforsaken day it was before the prorogation. But this kicking the can on accountability leads me to think that we're hankering for another snap election. And I'm agitated because we just want basic, simple answers. And I don't want to go back to the polls. If I have to go back to the polls, Mr. Chair, and express to my constituents that I sat for an entire year on this committee and we didn't get to one study because of this government, I will be furious. If you think this is passionate now, just wait until I'm unleashed on the doors. I will pull the clip from this particular meeting and I will put it on repeat on social media. I will advertise it as to the kind of obstruction that we've had here. So with that being said, I will share that I am open to withdrawing the subsection 13 to allow that to be kicked to whatever committee is going to deal with that circus. But as it relates to production of papers and as it relates to the priorities that we set prior to prorogation, I'm unwilling to budge on any amendment from the Liberal side that would have us kick the can beyond the date of the next snap Liberal election. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green. We have Mr. McKinnon next, and then Mr. Lloyd, and then Mr. Drouin, and then Mr. Kazmierczak.
Well, I'm looking at my colleagues. I want to acknowledge Mr. Green and his passion. I come to this job with the same amount of passion that he brings to this job. I'm here to get things accomplished for the people of Gatineau, just as he, I assume, is here to get things accomplished for the people of Hamilton Centre. And both of us want the best for all Canadians, like I hope all of us do. The question is, how do we transparently and openly proceed to a schedule of work in this committee that is realistic, that does not unduly burden the very people, the first responders in the federal government who are out doing procurement, supplying provinces, doing the work of this pandemic. We just adopted in the House of Commons, ni plus ni moins, Monsieur le
The House of Commons has just passed a motion with 28 subsections calling the Health Committee, our counterparts on the Health Committee, to study in a very detailed manner almost everything that the government has done during the pandemic, and to receive documents that will take huge trucks to deliver and that will take years to study and examine. That is what Parliament did. So what are we debating right now? Let's be realistic. There are accusations. Mr. Green is accusing the government of all sorts of things, and the opposition is accusing us, and we are accusing the opposition. But at the end of the day, what will we have done to further the interests of Canadians? The fundamental problem here is that the committee is dealing with an issue and it has to sort its work out. So I think we have adopted several motions at this point. I think we can move on to planning the work sessions on those motions. You can ask the members of this committee to go and plan the work. Ms. Vignola, Mr. Green, Mr. McCauley, everybody proposed subject of study that we are open to examine and study, and we look forward to do that work. And that will allow Canadians to understand those subjects even better. And that's essential. So Mr. Green's indignation is I find it quite offensive, because we too are here to do things for our electors, and we want Canadians to have the information that they need and that they deserve. I put forward 2 amendments. Maybe other people will have more to put forward, but Mr. Green is basically suggesting to take everything that we've accepted to debate, to put it in one proposal, to add 2 requests of production of documents, which would be quite difficult and onerous. And that would have to be done within 5 days, which is quite unrealistic. So I suggest that this amendment to this committee that would make the work a bit easier. I would like to ask you, Mr. Chair, and colleagues on the subcommittee to take the work, to organize the work, and to make sure that we have a orderly calendar and something realistic. That way, we can tell Canadians that we will deliver the information that will reflect and deepen our understanding of important issue, and that we will table a report at the House of Commons. That's what we want on the side of government. That's all we want. We want to be able to study important topics and to table reports to the House of Commons. We do not want to go motions at every meeting, surprise motions, to rearrange the whole workload of this committee, to add another unrealistic date in the calendar. So let's put our house in order, Mr. Chair. Let's all act in a collegial way. Let's have all the parties here to sit down as it is expected from the standing orders. So this is why I proposed amendments to the motion. And if necessary, I will do so as well on the main motion, because it's important that Canadians hear the passion that we have here on the government side. We want to accomplish things for Canadians.
Pour nos commettants, nos commettantes. On a une grande...
One minute, please. With translation is... we appear to have lost translation, so... I was
Ask him to continue.
do you want to continue? I believe we should have it.
Je sais pas si...
Allez. Well, I just concluded my comments in any case, Mr. Chair, so...
Mr. Lloyd.
Ben, attendez, là. Non, j'avais pas fini.
No, just a moment. I haven't quite wrapped up. Vous avez...
Conclusion.
No, I'm getting to the conclusion of my comments. So, it is in that vein that we once again hold our hands out to our colleagues and friends on the other side, in the opposition, to make sure that this committee can get back to work, do the work that we were sent here to do. And I hope this work can be done in the subcommittee. So it's in that vein that, Mr. Chair, I propose the debate on that motion be adjourned.
Mr. McKinnon, you're proposing to adjourn the debate on your amendment. Is that correct?
Pardon me?
You're proposing to adjourn the debate on your amendment.
That's correct.
We can, but they...
Point of order?
Clarification, adjourning the debate on the amendment adjourns the debate on the whole motion.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Do we have a consensus? As you have the floor, I guess I'm asking the committee, is there consensus to adjourn the debate? Do I see conclusion?
What?
Yes?
Sorry.
Mr. Green?
Yeah, I don't think that I have consensus to adjourn this. I'm wondering through you, how many people were remaining to be able to speak to this motion?
We had 4 more people speaking on the motion, on the amendment. On the amendment.
You had me, and you're suggesting that by adjourning the amendment, we adjourn the whole motion?
Correct. Debate on it.
And then do we call the question? Like, is that, if you're saying we're adjourning the debate?
No.
It would just.
I'll
be, it would
I'll just
be-
defer to the clerk for a second.
When a committee is dealing with an amendment to a motion and it adjourns debate on the amendment, what essentially it means is you cannot take up the main motion again. And the reason is because the amendment supersedes it. You must deal with the amendment first. Now, you can deal with the amendment either by adopting it, defeating it, or adjourning the debate on it. In this case, Mr. McKinnon has moved that we adjourn the debate on the amendment. What that essentially means is we cannot continue with the discussion in general of either your motion or the amendment until such time as the committee wishes to bring it up at a future time, providing
So
that,
on that-
motion is agreed to. Excuse me.
With that understanding, Mr. Chair, I'm going to ask your indulgence so that I'm clear in my mind procedurally. If the debate is adjourned, the motion is still active, or would I have the ability to resubmit a motion that might be broken up into two parts for the purpose of having that addressed at some future time?
So the motion is still active and can be picked up at any time.
But I can't change it, correct?
If you want to, you can.
Okay, Mr. Chair, and I can't speak to this, right? In theory, I'll respect that. Well, then I don't support the adjournment because there's something that I want to say about it.
Vote. I'm going to call for a recorded vote, so I call for the clerk.
The motion is to adjourn the debate, and I will call the roll now. Monsieur Drouin,
En faveur.
Favor.
Support.
Mr. Kuzmierczak,
Support.
Mr. McKinnon,
We,
Mr. Wyatt,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd,
In favor.
Mr. Macaulay, Monsieur Paul Huss,
Sir Paul Hughes, yes.
Vignola,
No.
John Vignala, no.
No, I don't support it.
Mr. Chair, that is 7 in favor and 3 against.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Yes, we adjourn the debate on this motion. Mr. Drouin.
Chair, can I make a suggestion and move a motion to adjourn or seek my colleagues' preference and we move to subcommittee so we can deal with the 4 motions at hand that we already adapted and we can start scheduling meetings?
Yeah, so he can do that.
You can do that.
Recorded vote.
If there's no consensus. If there's consensus, you can.
We have consensus for Mr. Drouin's motion.
No.
Then we'll have a vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion is that the meeting be now adjourned. Monsieur Drouin,
En faveur.
In favor.
In support.
Mr. Kuzmierczak,
Support.
Mr. McKinnon,
we,
Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd,
Yes.
Mr. Macaulay, Monsieur Paul Huss,
Wait.
Yes.
Madame Vignola,
Yes.
Nope.
Mr. Chair, that is 9 in favor, 1 against.
Therefore, the meeting is adjourned. Before we totally leave the room, I just want to say, as this meeting is complete, subcommittee on agenda and procedure will now meet. When I adjourn this meeting, the technical staff will end the meeting in Zoom. This means that members of the subcommittee cannot remain logged into this meeting should they be so. And in order to participate in the subcommittee meeting, they must reconvene. Members of the subcommittee will have to sign into the meeting after this meeting is adjourned using the password and the link sent to them by the clerk earlier today. And with that said, we are now adjourned.